Now, as we bring this Thunderdome era to a close, I thought I would say a few words about it here. Vince McMahon has invested a lot of money, millions of dollars, for his virtual wall of fans. I would rather have had the Thunderdome than just empty black space and wrestlers performing in silence. It's one of the reasons why when I would occasionally flip on Impact Wrestling, I quickly turned it off. I couldn't watch it. Only recently really did they start with like the background noise, and I guess they're going to be getting fans back in the building soon. So I would much rather have something like the Thunderdome than not have anything at all. And I could appreciate the effort that went into putting all of that together. It is a huge undertaking. There were a lot of people working on that, putting it together, making that thing work. But it is not the way the wrestling was meant to be watched. And I will also say this to all of the people saying bye-bye piped-in crowd chants. I saw a lot of that sentiment this week. Oh my God, I can't wait until we get rid of the fake crowd chants. Oh, we're not going to miss you. What makes you think that this is the end of the piped-in fake crowd noise? Why does everybody seem to think that just because the Thunderdome is going away and they're going to be back in front of live crowds that they're not going to be still piping in the same shit they've been doing for months? I don't believe for a second that they're totally doing away with the pumped-in crowd noise. That's their baby now. That's going to be one of their biggest takeaways from this whole COVID era. They had 20,000 people in the building both nights of WrestleMania, and they still piped in fake crowd noise. You could hear it. I hate to break it to you, but the fake chants are here to stay. They may not use them on every show, but they're not going anywhere. That being said, I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge a few of the standout moments of the pandemic era in WWE, which will go down as the worst era in WWE history. If you were to rank all of the eras, the Golden Era, the New Generation Era, the Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression, the PG Era, we now have the COVID era. And it trumps all of the other eras, even the ones with the Goon and TL Hopper and the Triple H Reign of Terror. It trumps them all as the worst era in company history. Monday Night Raw has never been worse. And wrestling in front of no fans and then in front of virtual fans is awful. And yet, despite this, there were a few positive things that stand out to me. For one, some of the promo work that we have been able to see on TV, even going back to the empty Performance Center shows. And actually, those are the shows more than any that stand out to me. There was very little I liked about those shows. But the promo work is something that still stands out to me, especially from people like Edge. And then later on, you had Roman Reigns once he came back, Rey Mysterio. There were certain episodes and storylines where guys were able to really shine and really pump out some stellar promo work. You could even go back to WrestleMania this year when they had the rain delay at the beginning of the show. They had a scramble to kill time, basically. We got to see from people like Kevin Owens and Drew McIntyre and others how they respond in a situation like that without a script to memorize or without even bullet points. They just put a microphone in their face and said, here, we need you to talk for 3 minutes. And not in every case, but in a lot of cases, I thought they thrived, and it was better than anything they could have scripted for these people. But the best part about the promo work during this era, the absolute best part about it, no stupid what chance to interrupt them. That I am going to miss. We had the Boneyard Match last year, WrestleMania 36, right at the beginning of the pandemic. A fine send-off for The Undertaker, one of my favorite matches all year. That's a cinematic style match done right. And if that ends up being The Undertaker's last match, and I am still skeptical, as of now, it is his final match, but we know how that goes. I thought it would be a fine send-off for him. Bayley, I just talked about her and her injury. Her character work and her segments with Sasha Banks from when they held the women's tag team titles and all the titles, really. Straight on through their feud and their Hell in a Cell match for the SmackDown Women's title, probably my favorite match, in-ring match, not cinematic match, of the COVID era, was their Hell in a Cell bout. And their segments, by the way, did well. They had a title match on SmackDown in November that, as I recall, was a ratings draw for the company. It did over 2.5 million viewers, which was the most watched WWE segment since the beginning of the pandemic in March. So almost everything that Bayley was doing was gold, especially when she was ragging on Michael Cole. But her character work really came along in a big way during this era. She was one of the few people who really benefited, I think, from this whole situation. She was one of the MVPs of this era. And speaking of MVP, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the Hurt Business with Bobby Lashley, Cedric Alexander, Shelton Benjamin, and MVP. A group that was broken up prematurely for no good reason far too soon. But putting MVP together with Lashley, or I should say reuniting them from their days together in Impact Wrestling, and the rise of Lashley the Destroyer, who they protected more than anybody else not named Roman Reigns, when he was the United States champion. They did a hell of a job of protecting this guy and really building him up before finally winning his first WWE championship in March. And that was very cool to see him finally ascend to that level because he was booked as a destroyer, because he was booked in a believable way. And of course, the heel turn that we waited years for, with Roman Reigns and the rise of the Tribal Chief. And my only regret is that it didn't happen in front of live fans. You have a big heel turn like that. You have a guy as polarizing as Roman was. Imagine the reactions. Imagine the crowd reactions when he first came back and he was aligned with Paul Heyman and he was healing on everybody. But Roman Reigns has been carrying this company now for months. He's doing the best work of his career. The way he carries himself, the way Paul Heyman walks on eggshells when he's around him, the new music, the quality matches that he has had with Jey Uso and with Drew McIntyre at Survivor Series, with Kevin Owens, with Edge and Daniel Bryan, with Cesaro. It took WWE far too long to figure it out and get it right, but now they have. Better late than never. Now he is the star that Vince McMahon always wanted him to be. It was the Great American Bash on NXT this week. They had the Statue of Liberty head as part of the set, and the torch. Lady Liberties, not Wade Kellers.